Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Dalton. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, and I apologize for that, but I didn't want to waste this time, so I have recorded what I would have said to you in person. Please give respect to Mr. Birchfield and your attention, and please thank him for being there in my place today. We're going to go over a couple of basic things, the sort of things I would have gone over with you had I been there. And if you could, please follow along for the parts that are there to follow along in the packet that Mr. Birchfield is going to hand out to you. This is a collection of my syllabus, it's my expectations, and on the last page is a sign off sheet that both you and your parents must sign, and then please return it to me tomorrow. That'll be your first homework assignment, and it's about the easiest 100 you're ever going to get. So, again, please look over the packet with your parents or guardians. Make sure both you and they sign it and return it to me tomorrow. So, what we're going to do today is get to know each other a little bit better, or more accurately, you're going to get to know me better, and tomorrow I'll get to know you. We're going to talk about senior English, what it's all about, and how the class is going to move forward. Now, those of you who've had me in the past know I always start every class with a word of the day, and today's our first day together, so why not start with a word of the day? Again, for those of you who've had me in the past, this word will come as very little surprise. The word of the day is commencement. It's a noun. MENT words are oftentimes nouns, and it is a beginning or a graduation ceremony. And a lot of people talk about how graduations are really, the end of something, high school or college. And obviously, that's your end goal this year, is to get to graduation. But let's be honest, it's also the start of a whole new chapter in your life. Whether you're going into the military, whether you're going into a trade, or whether you're going on to additional schooling, graduation represents a whole new start for you. And so, what I do with the words of the day, usually they come from the book that we're reading. Today's an exception, of course. But what I have you do is every day jot down the word in your notebook, jot down the definition. And on the last Friday or the second Friday of any cycle, we have a word of the day quiz. Now, if you don't have your notebook with you today, and I understand some of you might not, I'll put this word as well as tomorrow's word on the board with a definition. So let's get started. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mr. Dalton. I am an English teacher here at Cape Tech for the last 8 years. This has been my home. And I have, for the last 3 years, also taught the journalism class here at Cape Tech and serve as advisor to the school newspaper, Tech Talk. Before coming to Cape Tech, I worked at Sacred Heart High School for 7 years. Now, there I taught English as well as journalism and newspaper, communication arts, theater production, and cinema appreciation. So I've got a 14 going on 15 years here in education. My time here at Cape Tech I have found very rewarding, thoroughly enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to this new school year and working with you. Before going into education, I was a reporter. I worked on and off for about 5 years for the Harwich Oracle, which was a local paper here in Harwich, came out every week. I also worked for the Cape Codder, a regional local paper for the 8 towns on the Outer Cape. For the Oracle, I was the editor and writer, and for the Codder, I was the associate editor and writer. So that's part of my background. In addition, I still remain in the newspaper industry. I work for the Cape Cod Times as a freelancer, where I write 4 editorials a week that appear in the paper. For a while, I used to do marketing and public relations work, and I still do some of this on a part-time basis as well. I've worked for a number of companies and written for a number of companies. and find that really enjoyable. And I used to work at the Harwich Junior Theater. I was the producer there for 3 years, and as a kid, really grew up there doing theater and working backstage. Now, I don't do theater anymore. I don't have the time for it, nor the inclination, but a lot of what I learned there, I now apply to what I do here in the classroom. Certainly, I consider you guys, in some senses, an audience, and I'm a performer. And, not surprisingly, I like books, which is good if you're an English teacher. If you don't like books and you're an English teacher, really, what are you doing here? Now, for those of you who have not had me before, you should know that I take the class pretty seriously, but that doesn't mean we don't have fun during it. We engage in a lot of entertaining discussions. We have a lot of different animated discussions at times. Sometimes we veer off the books and into uncharted territory. That's fine. Okay. Now, thinking ahead. Excuse me. Thinking ahead. As you guys know, and as I already mentioned, senior year is different. Okay. And one of the things that I hope you're able to do and go into your senior year with is something called a growth mindset. Now, there's a woman who's studied this for some period of time. She's brilliant. Her name's Carol Dweck. And she found that people in general have two different approaches. Excuse me. They either have a fixed mindset or they have a growth mindset. Now, a fixed mindset suggests that you are as intelligent as you are going to be coming right out of the womb. That although you'll learn stuff, you are as smart as you're going to be on day one, and that's going to stick with you for the rest of your life. We've learned through studying that that's just frankly not true, that people can expand their base of knowledge, that they can become more intelligent, that they can train themselves to learn things that they thought they never could have learned in the first place. And what happens is if you have a fixed mindset, you tend to lock yourself in place. You say, I was born smart, ding, or I was born dumb, dong. And that's kind of it. You fashion your life around that premise, that supposition. And frankly, nothing could be further from the truth. Intelligent people were not born intelligent, nor were dumb people born dumb. It's something that we grow into. Now, granted, some of us have learning challenges or learning disabilities, and that can hinder our ability to show just how smart we really are. And that can be really frustrating. People who have ADHD, people who have dyslexia, people who have executive functioning disorder, all of these conditions and a whole lot of others can prevent us from being able to show to other people just how smart we truly are. And unfortunately, sometimes we get branded as smart in one thing and dumb in another, or we brand ourselves that way. We convince ourselves, oh, I've never done well in English, so I'm never going to do well in English. Or we hang our hat on it like it was some sort of genetic trait. Nobody in my family is good at math, so therefore I'm not going to be good at math. And frankly, that's not true. There is no genetic predisposition toward being smart or not so smart in a particular topic. To give you an example, my father is one of the worst spellers ever, and he knows this, and he takes steps to make sure that it's not an issue in his life. When he goes to write something, he has somebody else proofread it. It's not a reflection of his intelligence. He's a very intelligent person. Similarly, he had two sons. His two sons both went on to be English majors, and I can tell you I'm a pretty good speller. And his grandson is also a really good speller. In fact, if anything, he's probably a stronger speller than I am. So it's not as if this were fixed in time and that all the Dalton family members can't handle spelling words. It's just not true. So, a growth mindset basically acknowledges that intelligence is gained. It's not something that's fixed in stone. Think back to your first year of life. Well, I mean, I know that's a challenge, but when you're born, you don't know how to roll over. You wind up sitting in your own poop for hours at a time. You can't communicate. Literally, there's very little you can do other than eat, sleep, and cry. And yet, over the course of that first year or two, you learn all of those skills. You're able to roll over. You can not only roll over, but you learn how to walk. You learn how to communicate. You go from sentences or words and sounds to full sentences and paragraphs, full thoughts of expression. And that's true throughout life. You do continue to gain intelligence. You do and continue to gain knowledge. So, and I can't emphasize this part enough. As frustrating as it is for some people who have the intelligence but can't share it, it's not always about trying harder. If I asked some of you whether or not you were trying your best and still didn't succeed sometimes, I'm guessing many of your hands would go in the air. It's not always a question of trying harder. It could be a question of training your brain or putting in the supports you need so that you can reflect how smart you are. And that's one of the things that I want to help you with over the course of the year, giving you the tools to really showcase just how bright you truly are, and also helping you to expand your field of knowledge and to become more intelligent. So there's our fixed mindset. We're putting that in the past. If you have one, we're moving toward the growth mindset. Now, I'm a big believer in keeping things simple. For example, as anybody will tell you, almost all of my grading is out of 100 points. Why? Well, because the math's simpler, and that's why I like to keep it. So I try to boil everything we do down in this classroom down to 3 very simple rules. And again, these are in that syllabus packet that you have in front of you. First of all, be prepared. Make sure whatever work you're supposed to be doing ahead of time is done. If you're supposed to read a certain amount of pages for a certain night, make sure you have. Make sure when you show up, you're ready with questions or comments about the reading. Also, make sure you show up with a notebook, whatever book we're reading, and a pen or a pencil. Now, as far as notebooks go, whatever kind of notebook you want is good by me. You want the single subject spiral bound notebook? That's great. You want the 3-ring binder with like 3 subjects in it? Fine. You want the 18-pound, 35 subject giant spiral binder? Great. Whatever is your favorite type of notebook, that's what works for me. All I ask is that you have a section devoted specifically to English, whether it's in the spiral bound notebook or in a 3-ring binder. I will be periodically checking your notes throughout the year and looking to see that you're keeping up. So have that dedicated spot for English so that I don't have to work my way through the Spanish, biology, and algebra to find your occasional English note. Also, along the lines of that, with being prepared, make sure you're on time for class. That doesn't mean you're walking through the door when the bell rings. That means that you are at your seat, notebook open, ready to go when that bell rings. All right. One other rule here is respect others. There's nothing more insulting or maddening than having somebody talk over you while you're talking. You don't like it. You can be sure I don't like it, and your classmates don't like it. Spend the time to listen to each other. Pay attention. And you can expect that I will afford you that same respect when you are talking. I will be quiet and really listen to you. Pardon me. Along those lines, I've learned through researching it that approximately 3% of the global population can talk and listen at the same time. I have been remarkably lucky in my years of teaching that 3% appears to make its way into my classroom every year. But on the off chance that you happen to be one of these great and gifted people, congratulations. But I'm going to tell you that the person sitting to your left and sitting to your right is not so lucky. As a result, please don't talk when somebody else is talking. Don't be a distraction. Help everybody around you focus on what they need to be doing, which is learning and listening. And finally, respect the space. This room is kept neat thanks to the hard work of the custodial staff. I work hard to keep it neat. When you're in here, this room is essentially your home. Be respectful of it. Don't leave trash on the floor. Don't bring in food. And the only drink you can bring in here is water. Water. And I know, I've heard it 1,500 times. Well, coffee's got water in it. Gatorade has water in it. I don't care if it has water in it. It's got to be pure, clear, only water. Anything else is going to get thrown out. Okay? Now, if you have responsibilities, you should have rights. So, yeah, you get some rights. First of all, you have a right to be heard. Your opinions do matter in this class. Excuse me. You've got the right to share your thoughts and your feelings as long as they are related to what the discussion is about. Let's try to keep on track and on topic as much as possible so that we can be focused and get as much work done as we can. The more work we get done in class, the less you have to do out of class. You also have the right to raise questions, and those questions can be about the books we're reading. In fact, anytime we're starting class, after having read something, one of the first things I'm going to ask you is any questions about last night's reading. My hope is that you're taking notes and that when you run across stuff you don't know or don't understand or have questions about, that you bring those questions to class so that I can answer them and give you the information you need so you can keep understanding what it is you're supposed to be reading. Excuse me. Finally, you've got a right to improve. I can't want your grade any more than you can. I will give you every tool that I have to be successful. I will work with you as much as possible to be successful, but you have to want it too. As you can see in the syllabus packet, I've listed when I'm available. I'm here before school almost every day at 7:30 at the latest. I am also here after school every day till 10 minutes of 3, and on Wednesdays and Thursdays I'm here later. I'm also available during first lunch. If for whatever reason those days and times don't work for you, let me know and we'll come to some other arrangement. I want you to be successful in everything you do this year, not just in English. Obviously, I got a bias toward English, but this is not the only thing that's important to me or to you. I want to help you be successful in every aspect of your life. Now, one other rule or something worth discussing is the use of cell phones. As you guys know, cell phones exist. I like cell phones. I got one myself. I use it all the time. I use it on a daily basis. In fact, right now, I'm using it to time myself so that I know how long I've been talking to you. But they don't have any place in the classroom. Don't have them out. Now, those of you who've had me before know that I used to have a shoe rack right to the side of the smartboard here, where I used to have students put their phones in there every day. Now, you're not 3 years old. I'm not going to treat you like you're 3 years old. You're seniors in high school. You're young adults. And I'm going to treat you like young adults. But for that right and that privilege, there's also the responsibility of behaving like young adults. So don't have them out for any reason. In fact, make sure they're off when you come into my room. Don't have the earbuds in when you come through my door. I will take your earbuds. If you have your phone out, I will take your phone. Now, I've set up a charging station in the back of the room where if you want, you can come in, plug in your phone, let it charge all period, and then you can pick it up on your way out. If you know you are one of those people who's always going to be looking at your phone, do yourself a favor and put it in a backpack and tuck it away where you can't get to it. If you need a place to store it, if you know yourself so well and you can't have it on your person, you can put it on my desk or in my desk during class. However, if you take it out for any reason, I'm going to take it from you. And my policy is I will take it from you. I will hold it until the end of the day, not the end of the period, the end of the day, and you can come and get it from me. Now, usually that's a one-time thing and then it's over. But if it happens more than once, then we get to involve Mr. Roberts in the discussion. Just for the sake of clarity, if there is an occasion where you need to have access to your phone, let's say your dad's traveling, or someone in your family's in the hospital, or you're getting an update on a ride or something like that. I'm not an unreasonable person. Tell me at the beginning of class that there's some sort of real need for you to have your cell phone out, and you can have it out on your desk. And if you need it, excuse me, for that class, then fine. You can have it out, and when somebody contacts you about the issue at hand, you can respond. Similarly, if for whatever reason you are having a really bad day, and we all have bad days, let's say for the sake of example, you just got in an argument with your significant other. You had a parent yell at you. You had an unfortunate run-in with an administrator earlier in the day. Whatever it is, do me a favor. Take me aside at the beginning of class and let me know. It doesn't have to be a lot of detail. I don't need to know your whole personal life and find out, well, it all started when I was 3. No, that's okay. I don't need all the details. But tell me, I'm having a really rough day, Mr. Dalton. I got in a big argument and it's kind of thrown me. That gives me a heads up. It lets me know, all right, maybe I don't call on Bobby today. Maybe I give him a little bit of time just to be calm and relax. But if I don't know, then I don't know, and I can't respond appropriately. So, with that in mind, let's talk about the class itself. English is fun. No, really, it is. It is fun. Now, I'm biased, but we're going to be reading a really wide assortment of interesting books and plays this year. Stuff that has been selected purposely because I think it will enrich your life. Now, are you going to like every one of these books and plays? Maybe. Likely? Probably not. But I tried to mix it up, make sure that there's a variety so that there's a little bit of something for everybody. And hopefully it works out. Similarly, there should be multiple ways of responding to it. In the past, I've tended to rely mostly on quizzes and writing for you to showcase what you've learned. But that's not the only way. There are other modes of delivery out there in which you can show me how much you've learned. Maybe it's through an oral presentation. Maybe it's through an awe-inspiring, action-packed PowerPoint, much like this one. Or maybe it's some other format. So we will be responding in different ways. Certainly, essays are part of it. Certainly, we're going to be looking at literary terms. In fact, later this week, we're going to start in on a whole slew of them, as we do every year in English. Excuse me. So, for example, tomorrow, and I'll repeat this later on, you're going to have the writing associated with the summer reading book, which was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. After that, we're going to be going over literary terms on Wednesday and Thursday. So my point is some of these literary terms you're going to know. Some of them will be new to you, but you'll be jotting them down, we'll be going over them, and then we'll be using them throughout the year. And we will have a lot of exciting discussions. I am sure that they will be animated, and I am confident they will be the sort of discussions that you will benefit from. So let's take a look at some of the ways in which senior year is different. As you guys know, you've already started, hopefully, you've gotten accustomed to the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. For freshman and sophomore year, you had math and English for 180 days. Last year, that changed. I know you got sad. I know you were missing English, and I feel for you. And I know this year you're going to be missing English as well. I get that. But we're going to have to struggle through it together. This year, in addition, you've got senior project paper. You guys are already knee deep, or in some cases, even deeper, into your senior project products. When first trimester is over, we switch gears and we start working on the senior project research paper. That'll happen in early December, and we'll work on it from December into January and into February. And I know that's going to occupy a great deal of our time and focus, and I'm confident you guys will do well. Despite what you might have heard, and I know that there are a lot of horror stories out there about senior project, especially the research paper, I can tell you you're going to do fine. The only people who really don't do well on this are the people who don't do the paper at all. There's going to be a draft stage in which you will share with me everything you've done. And if you hit just a handful of criteria, you'll do fine on that. Then just take all the feedback I give you, and it'll be a lot of feedback. Make the changes, and you'll do well on the final version of your paper as well. Furthermore, you'll have shop cycle work. Now, those of you who I had last year made it pretty clear at the end of the year that you felt that I gave too much shop cycle work. I did hear those complaints. I'm acknowledging them. And as a result, I am restructuring how I do shop cycle work over the course of the year. That said, you will have work to do. It won't be as onerous or as painful as it was last year, hopefully, but there will be work that keeps you in touch with what we're doing in class, because otherwise your mind will wander for those 2 weeks and it'll be like starting from scratch when we get back together. A quick word about absences. If you are absent, you must make arrangements on the first day you are back in class to make up that work. Now, I understand you might not be able to make it up the first day you come back, especially if you haven't been, if you've been out for a few days. However, you do need to make those arrangements right away. Any work that's not made up is automatically a 0. The handbook has a provision you have 3 days once you return to make it up, unless, of course, you've been out for an extended period of time. You, again, are seniors in high school, and I'm not going to chase you down. I'm not going to hold your hand like would have happened maybe freshman and sophomore year. Your grade is your business and your responsibility. So make sure you take the initiative and see me if you are absent. And if you know you're going to be absent ahead of time, come and talk with me so I can give you that work so that you don't fall behind, so that you can be working on it ahead. I understand that somewhere between January and about March of next year, senioritis, for those of you who don't already have it, is going to kick in. Now, some people are going to remain focused and on task the entire year. Bravo. Thank you. However, I know some people start to drift away from their work ethic pretty quickly once senior year gets going, and especially in the second half. I'm going to let you know, I'm going to be teaching the whole year. I'm going to be assigning work the entire year up until near the very end. So you'll need to keep up with that work. My expectations are not going to change between now and the end of the year. So please do yourself a favor and keep up. So let's look at how the year is going to proceed in particular. So we're going to start with the summer reading assessment. which means, as you guys know, because you've been here a couple of years, we will have an in-class ORQ tomorrow on The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. Hopefully, you've all finished reading it. Hopefully, you didn't rely on the movie because the movie is significantly different from the book. And I'm hoping that you've enjoyed reading it. I personally think it's a great work. It's a powerful memoir. And we'll discuss a little bit when we get back, or when I get back, what the difference is between a work of fiction, a nonfiction novel, and a memoir. But in general, very basically, a memoir is a book written by somebody based on their memories. Now, if somebody else were writing about the same events, maybe a friend or another family member, those memories might be remembered very, very differently. However, this is what we've got to go on. We only have the one perspective, and that is of Jeanette Walls. So, tomorrow you'll get a question related to the book, and you will be writing an essay for the course of the period. The essay will be a minimum of 3 paragraphs long, and if you have handwritten notes, not printed notes where they're typed, handwritten notes, you may use those as part of the writing. They have to be your handwritten notes, and you can't share them with anybody else in the class. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. Then I will give you a couple of formative assessments. Now, a formative assessment is an assessment designed to assess just how much you know on a particular topic. They're not graded, they don't go into your grade book, and they have no impact, therefore, on your grade. However, they give me sort of a touchstone. They let me know, okay, 70% of the class doesn't know this. Only 10% of the class doesn't know this. And it helps me tailor what I instruct around what you need to know. Then, finally, literary terms, everybody's favorite part of the beginning of the school year, of course. We will have 2 days of literary terms. For many of you, a lot of these are going to be a refresher. You're going to know them. For others, you're going to run into words you've never seen before. That's fine. We'll both have examples, we'll have the definitions and the words themselves. Then next week, early next week, we're going to start in on doing some college essay writing. Now, I know not all of you are expecting to go on to college. I know that some of you are planning on going into the military or going into your work field, and that's great. However, the college essay is a valuable thing to have in your back pocket. It is something that will allow you to basically showcase who you are. And you can use that sort of information for toolships, for scholarships, or for college applications. And that essay is really all about highlighting something unique and special about yourself. It's not necessarily because you're such a skilled arborist or you happen to be the world's best carpenter or nail technician. Pardon me, it might be something from your life that has nothing to do with school. Maybe it's a challenge you faced. Maybe it's something that you had to overcome. But whatever it is, or maybe it's something you learned. Maybe it's somebody that really influenced you. In any case, it's something personal about you and shows how you have changed as a person. Eventually, we're going to talk about MLA, Modern Language Association, in-text citations, works cited pages, and everything that you need to know in connection with the senior project paper. These are all things that you have touched on in the past in your English classes, and for some of you in your science or history classes. And yes, it's a lot of work. There's no question, but it's important to learn how to do this now so that when you get to college or when you come to the next stage in your life where you might have to write a research paper, that you'll know how to do it correctly and without fear that you're going to get in trouble for doing something wrong. So, what are we going to learn? Well, hopefully a lot. I'm always optimistic at the beginning of the year. Certainly, we're going to learn how to do close reading of text, how to read a book not only for the story, but how to dig into it, how to learn what the writer's intent was, looking at themes, looking at influences, looking at different elements about what makes a story great or not so great. We're also going to be analyzing the stories, looking for recurrent symbols or themes or ideas that appear throughout one work or through multiple works. We're going to read a lot of interesting stories, and once we've read a number of them, you're going to start seeing patterns. In fact, you may have already noticed patterns in some of the works that you've read during your first 3 years of high school. Also, we'll be dealing with responses, and I touched on this earlier: essays, papers, and presentations, all designed to help you get prepared for senior project, but also get you prepared for life, quite frankly, because you need to be able to communicate your ideas in a clear and coherent manner. And that's going to be true, pardon me, no matter what field you go into, no matter what work you do. If you want to be successful, you need to be able to communicate and communicate well. Now, every year somebody asks me about how grades are determined. Now, in the English department, we discovered several years ago that some of us had different approaches and weighted things differently, and we decided we would come up with a universal approach. So, regardless of whether you're a freshman or a senior, and regardless of who your teacher is, your grading is going to be consistent. First, for homework and in-class work, that's going to be worth 10% of your grade. 40% is dedicated to quizzes. Now, quizzes also include ORQs and other short writing. And finally, 50% for tests, papers, pardon me, and shop cycle work. Now, this gives you a unique opportunity because I do not offer retakes on tests. Papers and other writing, other than the summer reading, writing, you can rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and improve your grade as much as you want. But I feel like the shop cycle work gives you the best opportunity to improve your grade because it's totally within your power to affect. You have the ability to decide how much effort and how much work you're going to put into that shop cycle work. So use that as an effective tool to boost your grade. Now, first trimester, the grading is slightly different. It's still 10% for homework and classwork, but quizzes are worth 35% and tests and papers are worth 45%, so that we can carve out 10%, which is what your summer reading writing is going to be worth. After that, it reverts back to the 40 and 50% for second and third trimester. I also wanted to mention extra credit. Those of you who have had me already know this, but if you want to earn extra credit, in this case, excuse me, a bonus worth 2 100s on quiz grades, and again, quiz grades are worth 40% of your overall grade, then you can write a story for the school newspaper, Tech Talk. Now, if you're going to do this, you need to get it approved by me ahead of time, and I need to vet your questions and who you're going to interview, and you'll write the story, and then you'll have to make changes based on my edits. But it's a great way to boost your grade. And I mention as an aside, if you are already in the newspaper class, you would have to write an extra story on top of the ones that you're already doing. And that, quite frankly, is because you don't get to double dip. So, what are we going to be reading this year? Well, a variety of things. And this is by no means a comprehensive or exhaustive list of the books that are involved, but it gives you a sampling. In the last couple of years, I have read two plays with my seniors: Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, who also wrote The Crucible, that some of you read earlier in your time in high school, and Fences by August Wilson. Both stories about relationships between father and sons and family dynamics. Both of them winners of the Pulitzer Prize for drama, and both of them have really stood up well to the test of time. We might also read some older books, some classics: Great Expectations by Charles Dickens or Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. Not on the screen in front of you, but another possibility is the 1960s classic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, which was later made into a great movie with Jack Nicholson. And in addition, we'll be reading shorter form works, nonfiction pieces, and then one book that I find has sparked a lot of interesting responses during the years that I've taught it, The Road by Cormac McCarthy, winner of the Pulitzer Prize in 2010, and the basis on which the movie of the same name was made. The movie is good. It's very different from the book, but it is good. And it's a dark and difficult book. Also last year, for the first time, we read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which some people really enjoyed, showcasing a dystopian future where a radical group has taken over control of the United States and women have been turned basically into second-class citizens. In all of these cases, we will be discussing the books and plays at length and having hopefully some great discussions. I'm also planning on having you guys read a number of short stories, and in the case of some of the classes, some poetry, and doing some analysis of that. I've already mentioned this, but let's talk about it again. We will be having discussions. My plan is to have some Socratic seminars this year, which are wonderful opportunities to sit basically in a circle with one another and toss ideas back and forth on a particular topic. Usually, we're not discussing a book in particular, but instead are talking about some of the themes presented in the books, some of the ideas that are presented, and building off of them, arguing about them, discussing them. It can be great fun. We also will have periodically reading quizzes, making sure you're keeping up with the reading. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't announce reading quizzes ahead of time. They're pop quizzes. However, I do give you this option. If you take handwritten notes of whatever we're reading, you can use it on the quiz. You can't use it on the test, but for times that we're reading books, you can use those notes on reading quizzes in class. We'll be working on in-class papers as well as papers that you'll be working on outside of class. But many of our papers I'm going to give you class time to work on. And helping you determine how to rewrite your papers, editing them, learning how to improve your writing on your own. And then, of course, when we're done with a novel, a test, bring all the pieces that we've discussed together so you can showcase your brilliance and knowledge and put it all down on paper. So, and as I already mentioned, the senior project research paper, we'll be starting that in December. You're going to work over the winter break on your draft. And then the first week of January, when we come back, I'm going to spend 2 full days reading through them, making comments, offering suggestions, excuse me, and helping you really get your paper to a place that it's the best that it can be. So, where do we go in the immediate future? Tomorrow, Tuesday, you're going to take that summer reading essay. If you have handwritten notes, bring them. Make sure you've got them. It's important that if you've done the work ahead of time, that you be able to reference them. We'll be working on this throughout the class. You will have to finish it by the end of class and you'll hand it in. It'll be scored using the Cape Tech Writing Rubric, which is the one that looks on your ability to focus, to analyze, to do good organization, and also to have certain conventions like capitalization, punctuation, and grammar. It's scored out of a scale of 0 to 32, and I'll have them back to you before the end of the cycle. On Wednesday, we're going to start looking at the literary terms, and we'll talk about the summer reading book. We'll have a discussion about the Glass Castle, and if you're in a class where we had additional reading to take care of, then we'll be discussing that as well. Next week, we're off to the college writing. As I mentioned, you'll be working on college essays, mostly ones connected with the Common App. You'll have some choice in terms of which topic you choose to take on. But we'll talk about what makes for a good college essay, what makes them strong, what makes them weak, and how to come out on top. Now, over the years, I've been asked a number of questions, and I figured it's good time to get them out of the way. Are we going to read anything good this year? Absolutely. We're going to read a lot of good books and some really great short stories and some nonfiction pieces. How do I get out of here? Well, in the short term, you don't. However, you can be pretty confident at some point this fall we're going to have a fire drill. As a result, let me tell you how to get out of here in case there's a fire drill. We're going to exit through the door you came in. We're going to cross that bridge that goes over the main hallway by Miss B's room, down the stairs, down the stairs, down the stairs, down the stairs, out through the door and into the parking lot. We'll stay together as a group. I'll have a list of your names. I will count how many people are there, and then we'll get out. We'll come back in when we get the all clear. Do I give a lot of homework? I give just the right amount. Of course, I'm a little biased, but as I said, based on feedback I received last year, I have altered my approach to how we do homework. Frequently, students ask me, why do you hate us? I really don't. Frankly, right now, I don't even know you, so I can't possibly hate you. And some of you say right now, well, once you know me, you might hate me. No, I'm not going to hate you. You might not like me from time to time, and I understand that. I get it. I didn't become a teacher to win a popularity contest. However, I don't hate you. I really do want to see you be as successful as you possibly can be, and I will work with you as hard as possible to make sure you are that success that you want to be. And finally, people ask me frequently, students and others, what is wrong with you? Honestly, we only have about 10 minutes left, and there's just not enough time for that. I'm sure you'll discover over the course of the year just how much is really wrong with me. So, in the last few minutes, I have a few questions for you. I'm going to ask that you take out a piece of paper and that you just jot down answers to these quick questions. First of all, put down your name, the town that you live in, and your shop. Let me know these things because, especially for those of you who I haven't had before, this will give me a chance to be able to connect with you and to get a sense of who you are. Next, please write out, this says on the presentation, your 3 favorite songs. They don't have to be your favorite songs. Just tell me 3 songs, excuse me, that you really like and the artists. So, The Long and Winding Road by the Beatles, or Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here album, or whatever. Just let me know. Also, give me the name of your 3 favorite television shows. Now, if you don't watch television, fine, that's great. You've led a much healthier life than I have. However, if you do watch television, give me the names of 3 of them, 3 that you really enjoy. And I don't care what shows they are. Lastly, let me know
3 of your favorite movies. Classic movies, new movies, comedy, horror. I don't care which one it is. Just please take a few minutes, jot this information down, and hand it to Mr. Birchfield when you're all set. Now, while you're doing that, while you're writing that out, let me remind you of a couple of things. Number one, please make sure that tomorrow you bring any handwritten notes connected to the glass castle. Two, make sure you bring a pencil or a pen, and that you by tomorrow and Wednesday at the latest have a notebook that's dedicated to English, whether that's a spiral binder or a 3-ring binder, whatever works for you. Make sure you have a notebook and then a pen or a pencil to write with. And finally, please make sure that you're on time. Being on time for class is crucial because we have a lot we're going to get to this year, and I need you to be ready to go when that bell rings. So, again, what you're working on right now, you're writing down your name, the name of your shop, the town where you live, as well as 3 of your favorite songs and the artists, 3 television shows that you really like, and 3 movies that you like. If there's a category that you don't like anything, if you don't listen to music, just write I don't listen to music. If you're not a movie person, simply write I don't watch movies. Again, this is just a way for me to get a better sense of who you are. Guys, I am really sorry I wasn't there for your first day of academics. I'm really looking forward to this year with you. Please make sure you take home that packet that Mr. Birchfield handed out. Make sure you get it signed and brought in for me tomorrow. I just need the sign-off sheet. I don't need the rest of the packet. And I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thanks, and I will see you then.